What you doing, Pierre?
Playing with the dog.
Welcome to our sailing channel. This channel has been focused on our sailing adventures as we traveled around the world. We are Pierre, Lisa, and our furry dog Tiller. This episode's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be an update since we haven't posted for quite a while. And also, I'm going to give a summary of some of the storms that we encountered along the way. Enjoy! Well, welcome friends and YouTube sailors. It's been a long time. It's been over a year since we made a video. So we sold BioTrek last spring. This station is still called BioTrek Sailing. Pierre has been thinking about the next boat, and maybe I'll take you along for that when we go shopping for a boat, but we're not quite there yet. And what I want to do today is just tell you a little bit about, I guess a summary, because we gave a presentation to the building here that we live in Boston, and people always ask us the same question: did you see any storms? So I put together some clips.
Storms? We never have storms at BioTrek. We avoid storms. We don't look for them. But sometimes the wind is a little bit high. Like would 45 knots be considered a storm, Lisa?
It depends whether you're going upwind
or downwind. One of the advantages that we have with BioTrek, of course, is that it's a fairly efficient boat, and going downwind, you just subtract the boat speed from the wind speed. So 45 knots of wind, when we can easily do 20 knots, then that means the apparent wind is only 20-25 knots, which is a good wind, but something that is manageable. The downside of it, of course, is that normally, if you're in open ocean, the waves will come up with that type of wind. So this is more of an issue, is the waves more than the wind.
But we have seen some storms. Our first round the world was in 2005, and we had to delay our departure date because of Hurricane Wilma. Here are some clips from that. We were glad we had delayed our departure for that storm. And here's another rough crossing, but it wasn't exactly a storm. A friend describes her experience in her first Gulf Stream crossing on BioTrek. We were sailing between two northeasters, and the waves were still a little bit rough.
Conditions are a little intense. There's some very big waves. We are basically right in the middle of the Gulf Stream. Right now, my job is to make sure that we don't accidentally jibe. Basically what that boils down to is that I need to make sure with this little remote, which controls the autopilot, that I do not let our true wind angle get above 150 at any point in time. The tricky part is that also means, according to Pierre, he wants to stay as far port as possible.
I'm just here for moral support. Somebody has to cuddle the dog.
And Tiller is here for moral support too. Yeah, for all of my friends who said, in response to me saying, "Oh, I'm gonna help my friends take their sailboat down to Antigua. Oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I could come. That sounds amazing." It will be amazing, but you gotta go through some of this stuff first. It's not all Mai Tais and skinny dipping here, folks. It's not all Mai Tais and skinny dipping. So. I do want to add that it's scary and my adrenaline is up, but I don't feel unsafe. It's just, this isn't a day sail around the harbor islands. We are in the middle of the ocean, and I guess that requires a certain amount of respect and caution. So it's scary, and the waves are big, and I'm queasy because I'm a little seasick. But the boat is cruising along like a champ, and we have such a good crew. I say as though You wouldn't have seen it anyway, even if I was pointing that way, but like a huge wave just came over the entire coach roof of the boat. But yeah. So Lisa and I are both getting very excited because we can see a little bit of the sunrise coming up, and we've just been so curious this whole night about the size of the waves that have been hitting us from the sides. So we're excited that we might get to see them.
I went to bed, so didn't record the height of the waves with the camera, but Pierre recorded in the logbook at 8 in the morning that they were 8+ feet.
Morning, it's a nice place to have a coffee.
I know, right?
Things got a lot calmer as we got out of the Gulf Stream, and we were going with the waves instead of against the waves. On day 4 of the passage, the wind had died completely, the oceans were dead calm, and we went for a swim in the lovely warm water that's about 2 miles deep. Some storms can't be avoided, and lightning can be spectacular.
One is going this way, this one is going this way, and this is landing. So it looks like, as far as those two are concerned, we're okay.
Well, you see the front up there? You can see the edge of the dark clouds.
Oh yeah, but I don't care about what's ahead. We'll never catch up with that. They're doing twice the speed we are. I only worry about what's behind.
Let's see that one again in slow motion.
As far as lightning is concerned, I know it's a worry for a lot of people. Lisa and I have done several Atlantic crossing and 2 around the world, and so and navigated both close to shore and offshore for quite a few miles. So our experience is probably quite typical from other long-range sailors, is that usually at sea, lightning is not much of an issue. Close to land, of course it is, and we've been hit by lightning, for example, when we were in Florida about 3 times altogether with different boats that we've had. So yes, it does happen, and it is a worry. But at sea, apart from one of the last monohauls I had in the Gulf of Mexico, where I did get hit in the Gulf again, one could say that this is closer to land than offshore, but that was probably one of the only time where I really did get hit while I was in the water. There were no consequences, of course, being hit, because the boat was very well protected from lightning, being not even a mast and grounded directly to the keel with large copper plates on the keel, so that was able to dispense the lightning power quite easily. It's very rare that you will see lightning at sea. If you do, it's mostly cloud to cloud, and it's usually associated with a front, normally, a fairly fast moving front, so it doesn't last that long. And most of the time these can be avoided when you see it coming on the radar. So that's pretty well, the rule of thumb. Of course, when you get close to land, all the bets are off.
Most of the storms we've encountered have not been at sea, but when we've been at anchor or on a mooring. Here's an example of one that we went through when we were in Tahiti. For centuries, captains of sailing ships have chosen a course where the winds are predicted to blow in the direction of travel. These are the trade wind routes, and today, cruising sailboats follow these same routes to sail with the trade winds. In our last video, we showed that we had spent some time in Papeete, the largest town in French Polynesia, and that we moved BioTrek to a mooring in preparation for a trip home for American Thanksgiving. Tahiti is south of the equator, which means that in November we are moving into the summer in this area of the world. Anyone living in a tropical or subtropical region of the world knows that summer generally means there's a risk of violent storms and it's hurricane season.
High wind speed. There's somebody out on the bow of the boat fixing something over there. You see that? Yeah. We're watching our position because we're on a mooring, but we're just fine. Going up to 50 now. The waves are really building now.
La capitainerie de Marina Steiner, il y a deux bateaux qui ont décroché, qui sont contre les rochers de l'hôtel, comment il s'appelle celui-là, Intercontinental. Deux bateaux qui ont décroché. Oui, correct. Contre les rochers au niveau de l'Intercontinental devant la plage de Vaïra.
Somebody needs to be rescued.
This is what the anchorage looks like where all the boats are in trouble. At least in better times, the boats here are anchored, not on moorings. As you can see, they're packed in quite tightly.
Vous disais qu'il y a un troisième voilier qui a décroché et qui est contre les bungalows de l'Intercontinental. Tout bien pris, donc je comprends maintenant trois voiliers, c'est correct? Affirmatif, trois voiliers.
I'll pause here to say something about the Coast Guard. In the United States, their job is to rescue people whose lives are in danger, but not if the boat is simply in danger. Well, Tahiti doesn't have that much infrastructure, and there are no private companies, such as Sea-Tow, to come and rescue boats that are in danger.
At least there it's protected. I mean, they have
Well, they
rocks.
wouldn't have the same amount of waves that we have, would they, with
No.
this wind direction?
No, not the waves, but the wind for sure. And with so many boats tied to get close together, if the boat starts drifting onto the rocks or to the hotel, it's safe.
It's safe, yeah. The wind's only at 31 knots, so time for coffee.
And just like that, the storm was over, and the anchorage started to look normal again. The wind switched back to the southeast, the boats all turned around the other way, and get on with their day because it was just after 7 o'clock in the morning. It's important to know that we did not go through that storm wondering if the mooring would hold. When we first arrived, Pierre and I put on our scuba gear and checked out the mooring. It's anchored to a huge cement block and all the tackle is new. For the storm, we confirmed that the block had not moved. Around Boston, we can also get some particularly violent storms in the summer. Here's a clip of one that happened during the pandemic.
I'm like a river that's overflowed. The sooner you know it, the less do we hurt.
I love the view of Boston from the water, especially when we're turning in the evening. You'd almost think that there wasn't a pandemic going on because the city looks quite normal. But the view from downtown is very different, with most of the office buildings being empty still. Also being in the Northeast means storms. Here was a little storm that blew in while we were at the marina. We actually clocked up to 55 knots.
47.
August 2020, we had friends from France arriving in Boston on their boat, and we arranged to meet them at an anchorage we knew in the Boston Harbor Islands. Just as we got tied up, we discussed the storm cells in the area, and then I received a text from a friend in the marina. We could see that storm cell, and it was heading our way. It was clear that with the two boats tied together, we were starting to drag, even though we'd anchored in the exact same spot many times with no problem. But with the heavy load of two boats and gusts of 50 or more knots, we had to take some action. So Edifix got on their boat, We separated the two boats, and they had to hold their own until the winds had abated so they could anchor. It was really rock and roll in the anchorage for the small boats. There were lots of maydays on the VHF radio during that storm, and there was also damage at the Courageous Sailing Club in Boston.
Yeah, regarding that incident that we had in Boston Harbor, this is quite typical if you're at anchor somewhere. You're a little bit vulnerable when you're at anchor, simply because you're relying on the anchor, on the change, on the scope you have, on the depth, on the type of bottom, and all of these are variables that are difficult to control unless you dove and you've been there for a while at the same location. So we tend to be a little bit more careful when you see a storm coming by, because you can never really tell just how much wind you're going to have because of the land effect and because of buildings generating vortex generators just increasing the wind speed in certain areas, or having a cell which is passing too close to you, So it's very difficult to predict exactly how much wind you're going to have. So you have to assume that things could get worse until it's finished. And so one technique that is used quite a bit is to turn the motors on when the wind starts to go up above what you know is comfortable for the anchorage where you are at. And usually that's around 25 knots. Once the wind gets above 25, 30 knots, I typically will start the engines and then just, get my all-weather gear. Sometimes ski goggles is required, and just go and sit in front of the nav station and look at the weather and the other boats drifting and everything else, and try to get a good feeling for what's happening. And with the engine running at low power, and once the wind really starts to hit and you see the boat is pulling on the anchor hard, I try to diminish the pull on the anchor with using the engine in forward thrust. Of course, this has to be tempered with the amount of wind. It's easy when you hit 45, 50 knots to increase the power to quite a high setting. You have to make sure that as soon as the wind eases, and that's a little bit difficult to tell when the winds start to ease up, that you back the power right away, because I've seen cases where somebody will have a little bit too much power when the wind comes up like this, and when the wind drops, the boat starts moving forward over the anchor, and that's certainly not something that you want to do in a storm, because the wind does go up and down. It doesn't mean the stuff is finished. Anyway, just small tidbits.
Well, I hope you enjoyed these short little clips, and we hope to bring you more content. We're not going to do it on a regular basis, so do ring that bell so that you know when we post a new video. And welcome back, everybody. We enjoy having comments from all our friends and YouTube friends and sailors that we know from around the world. So look forward to talking to you in the next video.
Goodbye.